At a critical power site, a perfect command voice was less trustworthy than a wounded man who moved. Mara Kest heard her own voice order Node A's defenders to leave that man behind. Outside, armed response remained at least 70 minutes away. Human attackers were already inside the perimeter. The guard shifted on the floor as the speaker repeated, "Clear the blue lane, leave the casualty, and hold center, access." A defender looked from the wall speaker to Mara. "That used your exercise phrase." "Half of one," Mara said. "Who is still moving?" "He is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Then 2 of you move him behind the barrier, and 1 comes with me." The nearest defender hesitated until Mara added, "I heard the order. I am rejecting the choice." The steady turbine hum pressed through the floor as red alarm lights swept the entry hall. Pellerone answered over the local channel beneath the command shelter fan rattle. "The phrase is technically plausible, but I cannot authenticate the speaker from phrasing alone." "Can you authenticate the order?" "No, although I can tell you it was prepared well enough to delay them." A report cracked beyond the inner door and struck a housing hard enough to swallow the next alarm tone. Mara felt the vibration through her palm and said, "Then authenticate what the order does to people." The inner passage narrowed between warm machinery and a low barrier. 2 attackers used the housings for cover, while a third held the interface room approach. Nothing around them had been smashed, and the aisle behind them remained open. "Casualty moving," a defender called. The copied voice returned with the same cadence. "Leave the casualty and hold center access." "He is alive," Mara said into the channel. "Is less than #0. 3# is greater than. Update the order with his current condition." No answer came, and the phrase merely began again. The nearest defender flinched toward the speaker just as an attacker came around the barrier. Mara shoved him down, absorbed the collision against the metal, and held the attacker long enough for the defender on the floor to catch his leg and her mobile responder to close from the passage. "Take the interface doorway and do not chase beyond it," Mara told the responder. A second report struck the barrier, costing him his sightline while the attacker at the interface moved, is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Mara crossed the opening, hit the man before he reached the door, and heard the responder shut the lane behind her. "Door is ours," he said. "Keep it ours while the casualty clears." Team A gave ground in pairs, one covering while the other moved. Yet, they left the manual interface and every machine intact. Mara stopped her people before pursuit uncovered the casualty and doorway together. "They are waiting for us to stretch," the responder said. "Then they can wait without our help." An attacker's open radio broke through the turbine hum, carrying Cade Orland's measured voice, "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. 74 minutes remain. Change the target and move the responders." Team A struck once at the defenders carrying the wounded guard, then withdrew before Mara's cell could close. Mara shifted 1 person to the casualty and kept 2 at the interface, leaving the command shelter thin. Pella returned beneath overlapping calls. "Node C is under pressure. 4 defenders are fixed west, and I hear contact without the reserve committing." "Can they hold?" "They can hold what they see, but I cannot tell you what the missing force is doing." Mara crouched beside the wounded guard, whose hand shook against the floor, and pressed a peppermint from the paper roll in her pocket into his palm. "What is this?" he asked. "Something to hold until your hand stops." Behind them, the speaker changed its ending. "Clear the blue lane, confirm no living casualty, and proceed without delay." The guard stared at it. "It just called me dead. Ask where you are." He did, but the speaker restarted the prepared phrase instead of answering. "Finite," Pella said, "or bounded enough to behave that way." "A failed answer proves it false," Mara replied. "Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. A correct answer would not prove it is you." The wounded guard's fist closed around the peppermint as quick impacts crossed the outer walkways. A defender at the door, reported movement east toward the Node B reinforcement, and Mara handed local control to the senior guard. No one moves on voice alone. Require a current fact, a visible consequence, and a second person who can judge both. And if every fact is right, he asked, judge the choice anyway. Overlapping calls from Node B and Node C broke Pella's reply. Mara could hear both sites and direct neither with confidence from inside Node A is less than #0. 4# is greater than. She stepped into the heat with her mobile cell, while the copied voice ordered an empty room to hold center access. Open wind stripped Node A's turbine hum from Mara's ears within 30 steps, breaking every metal echo across the movement line. The reinforcement column moved east in 2 uneven groups, with the manual interface specialists held near the rear instead of inside the larger cluster around the transport. The lead defender pointed west. Node C is 9 minutes from Node A. Under normal conditions, Node B is 8 minutes east, and Old Relay sits 6 minutes south of Node B, is less than #0. 4# is greater than Pella added over the channel. Those are ordinary travel times, so none of them describe what we can reach under contact. Several defenders glanced back at the smaller specialist group. One asked, why protect fewer people? Node B can hold with bodies. Its manual room needs these specialists, so the larger group keeps moving. Cheap aerial decoys rose into the heat haze above the span, producing more noise than their size deserved. Faces tilted upward until Mara called eyes level. The decoys only matter if they change where you look. A heat alarm pulsed from the service structures, while wind carried the transport's rattle, boot strikes, and echoes from every open frame. Then ground movement on the lower right disappeared, and the loose chain along that frame stopped tapping despite the wind. Rear group, stop. Specialists with me, Mara said. The lead defender looked back. What did you hear? Less than the span should be giving us. The human flank hit before the column settled. A shot struck the railing near the lead cluster. One defender folded against the metal, and a second went down beside the transport as attackers climbed from the lower frame. Forward group keeps east, Mara ordered. They are hit. Then do not feed the same lane by bringing everyone back. The nearest specialist grabbed the transport's rear step. We can help pull them clear. You can keep Node B operable, so move behind the vehicle and stay together. Mara drove the specialists into cover while her mobile responder watched the lower frame. An attacker crossed the opening and reached the transport, striking Mara hard enough to put her against the door. She held him away from the specialists until the responder pulled him off the step. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. First casualty is clear, the lead defender called. The second remains exposed. Another attacker reached toward the wounded specialist, and Mara struck him away before dragging the defender behind the wheel housing. The specialist clutched his sleeve. I can still use the interface. Then stay with the people who can use it. A hard report hit the transport's rear, lifting the vehicle into the rail and leaving it burning across the easy path east. Heat pushed the defenders away while the ground team withdrew beneath the smoke. Transport gone. 2 wounded, 1 unable to stand, the responder said. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Mara assigned a responder to each casualty, reducing her mobile strength again. The forward cluster continued toward Node B. The specialists remained pinned behind the wreck, and Node A sat behind her under local command when Pella's voice came through the wind. I am turning west because Node C's guard team cannot tell whether its pressure is real or staged. Can Node C wait? I can report what I hear from here, but I cannot judge the local failure boundary. Go, although that leaves 3 separated groups. You already have 3 separated groups. A generator coughed faintly over Pella's channel. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. That cough, Mara asked. The obsolete compensator, which I am calling the Great Auk. Flightless bird, flightless machine. The exchange lasted one breath before another report struck the far side of the span. Beside the lower frame, exposed equipment remained untouched, and the lead defender watched the attackers pass it. They ignored the cabinets. They ignored everything that was not moving, Mara said. The column was their target. She reorganized what remained through short local orders. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The forward cluster would hold node B. The specialists would move when the lower flank cleared, and node A would keep its manual room without waiting for Mara's voice. A defender near the wreck asked, "Who covers the whole crossing?" "No one, because we no longer have enough people to cover all of it. We move in pieces and preserve what each piece can do." The attackers tested the specialist group once more, then broke contact when Mara's cell pushed away from the wreck. She gained a few yards and no reliable route east. Pella's channel changed as she neared node C. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than open wind faded. A dull generator cough remained, and a patient relay knock settled beneath her breathing. "I hear enough people to keep the guard team fixed," Pella said, "but no heavy movement and no reserve commitment." Behind Mara, Node A called for help at its manual room, while ahead the clipped warning horn at Node B sounded once. The lead defender looked between the two directions. "Which one?" "Node A first. Node B holds locally, and Pella tells us when sound at Node C becomes committed force, is less than #0. 5# is greater than." The relay knock continued beneath that uncertainty, and Mara turned toward Node A while the transport burned behind her, wondering why an attack would work so hard to remain incomplete. Node A's turbine hum reached Mara before the building did, thickening through the central yard until it pressed through her boots. The manual room call had failed twice. On the third attempt, a local guard managed cable dark breached. Mara entered with one mobile responder, and the senior guard from the command shelter is less than #0. 4# is greater than heat. Sat between the metal walls, and the continuous hum crowded every smaller sound, while the non-combatant operator remained low beside the manual interface with two defenders pulled back around him. "Operator, report your control and stay where you are," Mara called. "The interface is live, but I cannot reach the shelter door." "You do not need the door. Keep your hands available for the station." The senior guard leaned close. "How many?" The vibration denies both sides a count. Team A's surviving element occupied the dark section between Mara and the interface, is less than #0. 4# is greater than 2. The hum hid movement from both sides, yet one set of foot impacts matched the turbine cycle too neatly to belong to a defender backing away. A moment later, the wall stopped carrying the operator's uneven breathing as another body crossed between them. "Left wall," Mara said. "You have 2 Qs, the senior guard asked. 2 Qs and no certainty beyond them." He shifted first, giving her the opening without pretending the room had told them more. The first attacker emerged with his shoulder low, driving the senior guard back 2 steps before Mara used the space beside him and turned the man away from the operator. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. A second attacker pressed from the opposite wall. "Second body on the right," the mobile responder called. "I hold left. Keep him off the station." The responder blocked the second man long enough for the operator to move 1 step. This cleared the manual interface, but placed him where Mara could not rotate without knocking him down. "Stay low and do not move again," she told him. "I am inside your lane. You are inside everyone's lane, so make the problem stable." Team A advanced in short bursts, hiding the next movement inside each collision, is less than #0. 4# is greater than Mara, gave up the center to the senior guard, and edged along the wall until a shot struck the metal behind her, swallowing the operator's warning and letting an attacker close. He missed on the first pass, caught her on the return, and drove her ribs into a hard edge. Pain erased the room for an instant. Her breath stopped, and the right side of her body refused the turn she attempted. Forward works. Right does not, Mara called as the attacker recognized the delay and pressed. She dropped her weight instead of turning, stayed upright against the wall, and held him until the responder pulled him away. The injury had already changed the geometry. Team A still held the better approach, and 3 defenders plus the operator were compressed around the manual interface. Operator behind me, senior guard on the door, and responder moving with him, Mara said. The operator looked at her side. You cannot cover the whole step. I can cover one step, and you only need one. The senior guard closed the center gap, while the responder drove the nearest attacker off the wall. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than Mara entered the space they created, absorbed another collision through her left shoulder, and shoved the man across the interface threshold as the operator dropped flat beneath the crossing bodies. Station clear, the operator called. A second attacker reached the controls, but the local defender already there caught his sleeve with both hands and dragged him away from the panel. The manual interface passed back under friendly control when the operator put his palm on the station and the senior guard shut the doorway behind him. Interface held, door held, the operator reported. Team A retained the dark passage and enough people for another attempt, while Mara no longer had the breath for a long pursuit. An open radio snapped through the hum. Engineer West, movement confirmed, an attacker said. Cade answered with measured calm. Do not spin the room, shift pressure. The attackers broke contact while their local position remained useful, one covering as the others moved through cable dark without hurry. The senior guard started after them. We can finish this before they reset. They chose to leave while they still had leverage, so hold the room and ask why. Pella answered from near Node C with relay knock beneath her voice. I have movement on both west approaches, and I can stay with the guard team or travel, but I cannot do both safely. Stay at Node C. That leaves Node A without a technical lead. It leaves Cade without an easy path to the only person who can remove Node C from the live architecture. Pella paused through 2 relay knocks. Understood. I will hold here until the movement changes. The command shelter fan rattled over another channel, and Mara's copied voice entered with warmer concern than before. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. Account for every wounded defender before movement. Keep casualty teams protected, and prepare the manual interface team for immediate transfer west. The senior guard looked toward the speaker. That sounds like the first thing you would say. It is, Mara answered, which is why the second thing matters more. Account for every wounded defender before movement, keep casualty teams protected, and prepare the manual interface team for immediate transfer west, Mara's copied voice repeated through the command shelter speaker. The fan rattled above her while a clipped warning tone sounded from the manual room and stopped. Is less than #0. 5# is greater than. The senior guard looked at Mara. It passed your first test because the casualty concern is correct. It passed one test, so stage the manual team at the shelter door and keep them inside until I confirm. The 2 manual defenders moved out of the inner passage while the non-combatant operator remained at the interface with 1 local guard. Mara held a hand against her ribs and listened for the flaw that had exposed the earlier phrases. The concern matched her own priorities, and Team A had broken contact in cable dark. Pella cut through the fan rattle. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. Stop the transfer because Node A remains contested, and that team is the only group able to defend the manual interface while the operator keeps it live. Node C may lose the west approach, Mara said. Then send defenders, not Node A's only manual interface team. Moving them makes this contested room inoperable. For several seconds, the westward transfer remained professionally plausible. Mara had accepted enough of the order to put the team at the door, but the contradiction lay in the sequence rather than the concern. Hold position, she said. 1 defender stopped, while the other continued toward the outer exit. Is less than #0. 4# is greater than. The senior guard caught his arm. She said hold. The speaker said transfer. I am standing beside her. And I heard her from the wall before you did." Their hands tightened as each treated the other as the possible failure.
"Release him and step apart," Mara ordered, but the senior guard held on. Pella's voice sharpened. "The concern passes your filter while the sequence empties the contested room. Stop them before Team A uses the delay." Mara stepped between them and pushed the moving defender back with her shoulder. Pain closed around her ribs and took half her breath. No one acts on voice alone. Use a current fact, a visible consequence, and another person who can judge both. The shelter door slammed inward before she finished. A shot struck the frame and swallowed the warning tone, while the senior guard was driven across the room, and human attackers pressed behind the door. "Manual team back inside, and the mobile responder holds the shelter entrance," Mara ordered. The copied voice spoke over her. "Immediate transfer west." A defender shouted, "Which one is real?" "The one in the room telling you what changed." The responder took the door while Mara pulled the confused defender toward the manual passage. The second defender covered the operator, and the senior guard rose into the next collision before being thrown down beside the shelter desk. "Senior guard down," the responder called. The operator started toward him. "He needs help. If you leave the interface, Team A gets the room. Keep the station live and report every change." The operator froze, turned back and said, "Interface remains live but the shelter door is failing." Mara and the two manual defenders helped the responder drive Team A away from the threshold. Her ribs limited every turn, so the defenders called the angles she could no longer cover. "Right side moving. I cannot take right. Close it and keep the operator behind you. Door returning. Hold it before the frame opens again." When the shelter door shut, the senior guard remained on the floor with shallow, uneven breathing. The manual defender who had followed the speaker asked, "Which order was yours?" "The delay was mine. Holding this room is mine." He waited until Pella confirmed the room must remain held, then returned to the interface passage. Mara looked at the casualty. "I gave Cade the pause." Pella answered without accusation. "Then use what the pause cost and stop treating one behavioral test as authentication." The copied voice restarted its prepared sequence without naming the man beneath it. Mara asked for the senior guard's condition, and the speaker answered with concern for wounded encounters who had not yet been wounded when the phrase was made. "It assembles prepared phrases and shapes allocation without updating the room," Pella said. Tova Brest joined from the Node C district over a low heat alarm. "The secondary hall is at capacity. The main hall has no spare space, and cooling margin is 41 minutes. Pella said, "Node C can go dark alone. Cut C removes that district from the live architecture without taking Node A and Node B with it." "If Node C goes dark," Tova added, "I close the secondary hall and move limited cooling to the most vulnerable group." Mara asked, "How many defenders remain at Node C?" "Enough to hold what is visible. Cut C accepts the blackout and releases them." Tova said, "I need the decision before the margin changes again." Mara looked at the senior guard and answered, "No, reinforce Node C and keep it live." Pella's silence lasted less than a breath. "Understood." Mara returned the manual defenders to their interface and reassigned the remaining mobile element west, leaving Node A thin. Beyond the shelter door, an attacker's radio opened and Cade's measured spacing shortened. 51 remain, west now. Cade's shortened order had already changed the west side by the time Mara reached Node C. The relay knock carried through the structure in steady blows, while the generator coughed beneath it and too many defenders faced two approaches, showing too little force. Pella met Mara near the local interface. Node C remains live, contact is light, and the reserve still has not committed. The Node C guard captain pointed toward the near approach. Two operators keep showing and fading, but neither has reached the interface or damaged the equipment. Mara asked, "How often do they make you turn?" "Every time we begin reducing the line." A shot struck the service frame and forced the nearest guards lower. Team C appeared at the edge of the approach, applied enough pressure to turn defenders, and withdrew under contact. "Local team with me," Mara said. "We clear enough space to see what they are buying." The captain asked, "How far?" "Until they stop choosing our attention, then we return." Mara moved with one mobile defender and 2 local guards. Her ribs tightened during the first rush, cutting her recovery before Team C had yielded 20 yards. Yet the attackers covered their withdrawal professionally, and never tried to hold ground. One operator showed near a service structure, drew 2 defenders west, and vanished while another covered him. "The left operator is pulling us," the captain said. "Fall back by pairs and make him close against defenders facing him." The captain repeated the order while Mara remained long enough to test the pattern. Team C never turned toward the exposed interface, never damaged machinery, and received no heavy reserve movement behind the fading footfalls before Pella came through the local channel. "The relay knock is unchanged and the interface remains untouched. They are spending our attention on empty ground," Mara said. "I confirm light commitment, not motive," Pella answered. Before Mara answered, Node B's distant double-beat transformer thrum stopped. The clipped warning horn began a second later, and the captain looked east. "That is committed force. That is the cost of arriving here first." The return to Node B consumed the margin she had spent west. Heat pressed across the movement line, and her damaged ribs turned each fast step into a negotiation with breath. The mobile defender said, "Sloofus, I take your right." At Node B, yes. Pella remained at Node C with the captain and enough guards to hold the live interface. "The west approach is thinning again. Keep counting people instead of noise." "I am, and the count still says light pressure." Node B's horn grew louder. By the time Mara entered the manual room passage, Team B had forced local defenders away from the outer threshold. A shot into the housing above the operator had filled the room with fragments and a lost sightline. "Interface status," Mara called. "Live, but the door is failing." Team B drove another defender off the doorway, and Mara sent the mobile responder right, where her ribs would not let her turn quickly, and took the center with 2 local guards. "Responder closes right, operator stays on station, and everyone reports control changes." "I cannot see the doorway," the operator said. "Report the interface." An attacker crossed the threshold. One local guard fixed him against the frame, while Mara and the second guard turned the next man away from the operator. The mobile responder blocked the right side push, but Team B adapted and shifted pressure back through the center. "Center opening," the first guard warned. Mara moved late because her ribs stopped the turn. The second guard absorbed the collision, struck the housing, and fell conscious but unable to rise, with one arm held tight across his chest. "Guard down," the responder called. The injured man tried to push himself up. "Hold the room before you hold me." Mara looked once at him, and then at the interface. Responder covers the casualty while the local team closes the threshold. "You are leaving me exposed," he said. "I am leaving you alive inside the room you told me to keep." The operator called, "Interface remains live." Together, Mara and the local defenders pushed Team B off the immediate threshold, but the delay and travel cost left no time for pursuit. Team B withdrew east while Node B remained live, and another significant injury remained on the floor. The double-beat thrum returned beneath the clipped horn. Pella's voice arrived from Node C. "The west approach is nearly empty now." "Node C remains live?" Mara asked. "Yes." "The interface is still untouched?" "Yes." Team B applied its hardest pressure while our defenders remained split? "Yes, although that does not prove Node B is the final objective." The operator said, "Node B looks like the objective." "It may be," Pella replied, "or the pressure point exposed while Node C holds defenders." "It changes what we are willing to lose," Beller, Mara said. Mara listened to Node B's restored thrum and the distant relay knock at Node C, two live sites holding two groups apart. If we remove Node C deliberately, does that only take its interface away? Or does it also release every defender tied to it? Pella answered Mara's question over Node B's clipped horn. 3 live interfaces keep 3 defender groups pinned. So long as all 3 remain contested, you cannot mass enough people to break one hold. A shot struck the manual room entrance and interrupted her. Finish the consequence, Mara said. Cut C removes 1 live interface and releases the Node C defenders, but it defeats no attacker. Tova Bress joined from the Node C district, with heat alarms sounding behind her. Cooling margin is 32 minutes at the current load. What do you lose first? Mara asked. The secondary hall. I close it before the margin collapses and move the limited capacity to the most vulnerable zone. Can you carry out that allocation in darkness? I can move people and cooling priority. I cannot make the loss disappear. Mara understood what her refusal had preserved. Cade did not need to own all 3 interfaces. He needed each one live and contested while her defenders remained too divided to mass against any team. Tova closed the secondary hall, Mara said. I will need the decision held after I move people, because reversing it wastes the remaining margin. I will hold it, Pella, cut C. A beat passed under the horn. Confirm authority and consequence, Pella said. Emergency defense and life safety. The district loses power and the attackers remain. Then, I am moving. Mara left Node B under local control and started west with the mobile responder and 1 guard. The injured man stayed beside the operator with another defender, while every hard stride tightened Mara's ribs and gave Cade more of the narrowing window. Node C's relay knock grew louder as she approached, with the generator cough breaking between impacts. Pella worked near the damaged separation point while the Node C guards covered both approaches. How much time? Mara asked. Enough for them to hear the decision. The guard captain watched the near approach. Contact is building. Pella indicated the obsolete compensator. Keep the Great Hawk clear. The Great Hawk? Mara asked. Hawk. Settle the bird after we survive, the captain said. Team C attacked before Mara could answer, converting light pressure into a direct drive toward Pella because she alone could complete the damaged separation. Near approach moving, the captain called. Hold 2 steps and do not leave Pella uncovered, Mara said. A shot struck the rail and forced the near guard out of his sightline. 1 attacker crossed toward Pella while a second held the far angle, and Mara stepped into the gap with the mobile responder. The first collision drove pain through her ribs and removed the right-hand turn she needed. Crossing your right, the responder warned. I cannot take it so close that side and keep him off Pella. The responder covered the lost angle while the guard captain drove the first attacker away from Pella's position. A third operator pressed through the far approach. I need the space behind me clear, Pella said. You have 1 body length. I need 2. Captain, give her 2 and keep your people attached to the movement. The captain shifted a guard from the near rail, narrowing his own cover. Mara stayed between Pella and the next attacker, absorbed the contact through her left shoulder, and turned him away long enough for Pella to continue. The relay knock continued through the fight, each blow marking a site still live. Separation ready, Pella called. Team C gathered for another push while Tova returned over the channel. Secondary hall is closing, and the vulnerable zone is receiving the remaining cooling. Mara saw the near guard lose another step. Do it. Pella completed the damaged separation. The generator coughed once and stopped, the relay knock died, and a deeper hum vanished from the floor, leaving only thin heat alarms in the sudden quiet. Node C went dark. For a moment Mara heard only thin heat alarms, hurried shoes, and Tova directing people through a room whose fans had lost their steady support. Tova's channel filled with low voices and movement. Power is gone in the district, the secondary hall is closed, and the protected zone has the remaining margin. Team C remained armed. The operators hesitated only long enough to recognize that the static position no longer served the same purpose, then moved east. Reports arrived from the other sites. Team A is leaving its hold, a Node A defender said. Team B is moving off the interface, another reported. Pella drew a controlled breath. They are no longer spending people to keep 3 sites contested. Mara pushed off the wall and nearly lost her footing when the rib pane closed around the movement. Node C defenders form on the captain and prepare to move on human contact. The mobile responder watched Team C. Do we pursue? No. We choose one group and remove it before Cade rebuilds the spacing. Which group? Team A, because it is already reduced. Pella said, I must remain until the damaged separation holds, and the mobile reserve is still absent. You stay covered while the captain is everyone he can spare. The captain asked, what changed besides the grid? Our objective, Mara said. We stop defending everything at once and begin removing teams in sequence. Tova's heat alarms continued behind the dead Node C soundscape. Mara took 3 defenders east toward Node A, while the blackout began spending its cost among people who had never seen the interface. Mara reached the eastern side of Node A with 3 surviving defenders and no room left for a defensive pause. The steady turbine hum had returned, but the copied voice was gone. 4 Team A operators moved in the low light beyond the central yard without radio calls. The lead defender watched one attacker raise a hand and close 2 fingers. They have shifted to local hand command. Then we attack before they settle, Mara said. The rear defender glanced at her ribs. I cover the turn you cannot make. She sent one defender to the near structure, kept another behind her, and gave the third the wider angle on her right. Team A reacted before their spacing was complete. One operator dropped from the service level, a second crossed behind him, and the last 2 shifted toward Mara's open side. Wide right, the third defender called. I see the hand signal, close before the body arrives. A shot struck the near structure and forced the lead defender out of his sight line. Team A used the interruption to split the Count Akos into separate collisions across the yard. Mara turned one operator away from the center path, while the nearest defender held a second against the structure edge. The other 2 attackers gave ground, then changed direction together on a closed fist and a sharp point. The defender followed the false retreat until Mara called, They are turning us, come back. He reacted too late, and Team A crossed the gap behind Mara. Rear closes my side, she ordered. The rear defender moved before Mara could rotate. Her ribs stopped the turn halfway, and took the breath she needed for another correction. He accepted collision on her open side, while his damaged glove slipped along the attacker's sleeve. I lost the grip. Hold the space instead of chasing the man. The third defender returned and blocked the route toward the turbine hall. Team A nearly folded to Mara's group back to the outer wall before the lead defender recovered his sightline. Stay paired, and whoever is closest covers the turn my ribs remove, Mara said. Ugly plan, the lead defender answered. Accurate plan. The defenders closed around the instruction. One denied Team A the yard, another drove the flanking operator into the open, and Mara used their space to put him down before her breathing recovered. First operator controlled, the rear defender called. I need another set of hands. The third defender helped secure him, costing them pressure on the remaining 3. Team A's local leader answered with 2 quick signals, sending one operator toward Mara and another toward the defender guarding the exit. Mara had speed for one choice. Protect the exit and trust me with forward. The lead defender intercepted the operator moving toward the doorway. The second attacker struck Mara's injured side and drove her against the service wall, locking her ribs hard enough to stop a full breath. Cannot turn, she managed. I have him, the rear defender said. He pulled the attacker away, while the third defender forced Team A's last mobile operator to release the structure edge and go to the ground. Mara stayed upright because the wall allowed it, then stepped back into the fight when air returned. The local leader tried to reach the center path. The lead defender blocked him shoulder to shoulder. "Your side," the defender warned. "I have forward. Keep his exit." Together they denied the route toward the manual room. The rear defender joined and fixed the leader against the service wall strut until he released his grip and stopped advancing. The surviving Team A operators were separated under local guard. Mara counted 4 enemies controlled, 3 defenders still standing, and the lost minutes before Pella's voice came through with Node Seed's "Keep quiet" behind it. "The separation is not finished, so I am staying. You should withdraw while you can," Mara said. "I can leave now, or I can make the separation hold after I leave. I cannot do both." "Your tremor is worse. You already know the baseline. The recent injury and work made it worse." Mara heard strain beneath the precision, not betrayal. "How much longer?" "Long enough to matter." Central communications dissolved into static before Mara could answer. Node B, Team C, and Cage Reserve vanished from the wider picture. The lead defender touched his channel. "Nothing beyond local." Node A keeps the prisoners in interface. Nobody moves either without 2 guards. The rear defender checked Team A's carried load, while additional local guards took custody. They have equipment for the local hold, but no portable bridge. "Could the bridge be elsewhere?" the lead defender asked. "They fought to keep this interface useful, so they expected the relink function somewhere," Mara said. Pella reached her through a weak local link. "The separation will hold. Team A is contained, but its portable bridge equipment is absent." Pella answered without delay. "Then Cade has not spent his best reserve." The turbine hum filled the silence left by the failed central channel. 1 enemy team was down, 2 remained active, and the strongest group was carrying a missing function that Mara could no longer hear moving. The missing portable bridge left Mara with a question and no central channel to carry it. Team A's survivors remained under local guard, while the 3 defenders who had made the counter-assault work were still breathing too hard to move as one. 30 seconds, Mara told them. "Then 2 come with me, and 1 stays on the prisoners." The lead defender listened toward the industrial grounds. "Emergency traffic is moving west. Most of it should be heading toward the dark Node C district. 1 heavy vehicle moved the other way. Its suspension struck twice under a compact load, followed by metal shifting inside a covered bed. The sound lacked the hollow containers and loose service gear Mara had heard on cooling runs. "Dense load moving east, then south beyond Node B," the rear defender said. Pella came through the weak local link. "Hold the channel open until the vehicle crosses another seam." Mara did. The hidden load settled with a single hard movement. "That is not cooling relief," Pella said. "Relief traffic should move toward the dark district, and the physical load is wrong. Team A lacks the bridge, so we have 2 facts and no route," Mara said. "I agree with the facts, not the destination," Pella answered. Mara started east with 2 defenders while Pella remained at Node C long enough to finish the damaged separation. Pella's voice arrived in broken pieces beneath Mara's breathing. "Old relay is on the decommissioned spur south of Node B, and I excluded it from certified recovery because it was physically separated." "Was that model wrong?" "No, normal recovery cannot use old relay." A shot struck a service frame ahead and forced the lead defender down before Pella finished. A screening operator crossed the spur, while another moved farther south to hold the approach. "Contact front," the lead defender called. "Keep moving while Pella gives us the hostile exception. A reserve can carry a temporary bridge to old relay and install it by hand," Pella said. "What can the bridge actually do?" "It can briefly substitute for the missing third interface if human teams hold both approaches." "What can it not do?" "It cannot restore ordinary power, automate the assault, trap defenders, or clear either approach. People still have to carry, protect, and place it, Pella said. Mara's ribs tightened as she lengthened her stride. Exact route. Unknown. Bounded objective. Old relay. Dry ticking appeared beneath the wind, with no power hum following it. Each faster step tightened Mara's ribs and shortened her breath, but slowing would give the unseen reserve more time to turn an inference into a completed placement. The dead structure remained excluded from ordinary service, yet deliberate movement had reached it. The screening operator struck from behind a frame and drove the lead defender off the approach, and Mara turned left because her ribs would not give her the faster right-side rotation. Crossing behind you, the rear defender called. Take him while I keep the south path open. The second operator held Mara away from the ticking structure while the first kept the lead defender low. Human contact had interrupted the inference at the moment. Cade needed it to stop becoming action. Mara pressed through the opening between them as the rear defender closed her injured side, and the lead defender recovered enough to deny a clean withdrawal toward Node B. Do we hold the screen here? The lead defender asked. No, their objective is delay and ours is the load. The attackers broke contact in short bounds toward the south, buying time for the reserve rather than trying to win the exchange. An open radio carried Cade's voice, stripped of its earlier spacing. 14, hold south, 2 approaches, move now. The rear defender looked at Mara. He knows we exposed the objective. He knows we are close enough to interfere. Do we keep the fallback at Node C? No, the fallback protects a place Cade no longer needs. Mara called Pella. Bring the Node C guard captain and whoever can move, but leave local cover on the dark interface. If your inference is wrong, Node C loses its last protected fallback. I accept that exposure. Pella's reply came through static. I can hold one boundary, but I cannot fight your path. You take the exterior service approach, and I take the ticking interior. Another clipped exchange sounded ahead, followed by the heavy load settling inside the dead structure. The exact route remained unknown, but the human objective still required 2 approaches to stay open. The lead defender asked, how do we move without a route? We deny the people who must carry the bridge through 2 approaches. Mara abandoned the final protected fallback and entered the interior approach with the 2 defenders. Pella moved toward the exterior entrance with the Node C guard captain as Cade's reserve sent its screening element ahead of the load. Old relay's dry ticking marked Mara's interior approach while chains scraped across metal outside. She entered with exactly 2 guards, the lead guard ahead and the rear guard behind, both carrying fatigue from Node A, while Pella moved toward the secondary exterior entrance with the Node C guard captain. The local link held long enough for Pella to say, the service barrier is damaged, but we can drag it far enough to narrow the approach without pretending it will hold anyone by itself. The captain said, 2 reserve operators outside. I will know the delay after contact. The portable bridge required both approaches to remain open. If either path stayed blocked long enough, Cade's reserve could not complete the human placement, and Mara heard the compact load shift deeper inside. The lead guard asked, interior objective. Keep Cade from having both hands free at the relink chamber. Pella's chain scraped again. Her worsening tremor made each pull uneven, and the captain absorbed the first exterior contact alone. The barrier now forces 2 people to enter one at a time, Pella said. That is enough. Ahead, a screening operator appeared between dead housings and forced the lead guard out of the center. Another figure moved deeper inside with the final component held close. Is that Cade? The rear guard asked. Whoever carries the component is our priority until we can see more. Cade's voice came from the dark in operational fragments. 10 keep exterior open component through. The screening operator yielded ground in careful steps, refusing the chamber while pulling Mara toward close contact where her damaged ribs and limited turn mattered. Lead guard, do not chase his center because he is pricing the path, Mara said. Sats outside's rags stopped and dragged again while Pella's breathing roughened. The geometry changed, she reported. The barrier is across part of the approach. The captain called. First operator committed, and the second is waiting behind him. How long now? 90 seconds if the barrier remains where it is. Pella added, enough force will move it, so the delay is bounded. Then buy the 90, and keep each operator from reaching the barrier together. The captain and I can buy time, not secure the approach, Pella said. A hard report outside swallowed the captain's answer. The local link fractured, returned, and carried only chain scrape and direct contact. The screening operator flashed a hand signal toward Cade, then attacked Mara instead of the lead guard. Cade had chosen to spend one operator to create the physical opening. Cade is spending the screen to reach me. Keep him behind when I move, Mara said. The operator struck Mara high and drove her into a dead frame. Her ribs folded around the collision while the rear guard pulled at him, and Cade crossed the opening behind them with the final component. Mara reached with her left hand to control the screen's arm. The operator changed direction under the guard's pull, trapping her hand between his weight and the metal edge. Pain shot through her palm and wrist, and her fingers opened without permission. When she tried to close them, the glove seemed present only as pressure around a hand that no longer reported its own position. Left hand failed, Mara said. The rear guard dragged the operator clear. Can you grip? Mara tried. Pressure became numbness before the fingers closed, and the weapon slipped against the floor. No grip, leave it. The lead guard called. Cade is moving with the component. Mara pushed herself upright with her right hand while the screen tried to recover. The rear guard fixed him against the frame. I need both hands to keep him here, he said. Use both and keep him behind me. The lead guard went after Cade, but a second reserve operator struck from the side and checked him at the interior doorway. I am blocked, the lead guard called. Mara could not turn hard enough through her ribs to help both guards, so she chose Cade. Rear guard keeps the screen, lead guard keeps the doorway, and I go through. You will have no support inside, the lead guard said. You are the support, because my back stays closed while you hold that door. The lead guard drove the second operator away from the opening, long enough for Mara to pass. Outside, the chain scraped once more, and Pella's voice returned through broken static. 45 seconds used. The captain said, the second exterior operator is moving. Pella answered him. Hold the narrow side while I reset the barrier. If it shifts, your hand is getting worse. It still changes the approach, so keep the first operator off me. Direct contact continued outside. Both reserve operators were still striking the barrier and captain, but neither had reached the interior threshold when Cade's final component struck the Relink chamber entrance. Mara followed with her left hand held close to her body, because every swing of the numb arm changed her balance, and every deep breath pulled at the rib injury. Dry ticking grew louder, while exterior chain scrape faded behind thicker walls. The lead guard's voice reached her once. Doorway held, keep moving. Cade crossed into the chamber and set the component against the unfinished placement point. His remaining time syntax had collapsed. 6. Clear her finish. No one answered from outside, and Mara entered as Cade released one hand from the component and turned toward her. She could not control him and the component with one useful hand, but she could keep him from having both hands free at the same time. Pella's voice returned in fragments. Delay ending, barrier moving. Hold what remains, Mara said. I cannot hold it past 90 seconds. You only need to deny support until I force Cade's choice. Cade put the final component into position and reached for it with both hands, and Mara closed the distance one-handed before Pella's delay expired. Cade had both hands on the final component when Mara crossed the relink chamber. Old relay ticked without power hum or useful light. Her left hand would not close, and the rib injury cut every breath short. Cade kept one shoulder between her and the placement point. 5. Hold exterior finish. No one answered, and Mara stepped inside Hibsdonst before the component settled, forcing him to release one hand and drive her toward a metal support. You need both hands, she said. You need one. He pressed into her numb side, but she stayed close enough to deny him a clean return to the component. Cade tested the exit for half a step, preserving an extraction line while the unfinished placement waited behind him. You can still leave, Mara said. 4. He looked back at the component and abandoned the exit. The mission pulled harder than extraction, and when he committed both hands, Mara struck through the opening and drove him off the placement point. Cade caught her shoulder, forced her down against the housing, and reached past her. Mara turned only as far as her ribs allowed, shifted under his arm, and took him off the line while her left hand struck metal without producing a usable grip. Cade rose first. 3. Clear the chamber. The lead guard answered from the doorway. Support is held. Cade heard that and returned to the component anyway. Mara caught his leg with her right arm, forcing him to post one hand while she climbed into close control. You cannot hold me and stop placement, he said. I do not need both at once. He drove her off, regained the component, and put both hands on it again. 2. Mara rose through the rib pain and pressed from his side. Cade kept one hand on the load and used the other to clear her, but each defensive movement pulled him farther from completion as the lead guard reached the chamber entrance. Last support secured. Stay on the door. Cade's extraction route was closing, yet he chose control again. He released Mara, turned both hands to the component, and exposed his side for the fraction of a second he needed to seat it. Mara drove him away from the placement point, carried him into the floor, and kept his right arm out of reach with her one functioning hand. Cade tried to rise toward the load rather than the exit as the lead guard moved in. Alive, Mara said. Understood. Together they rolled Cade away from the component and secured him against the floor. He resisted until the guard fixed his wrists, and Mara blocked his path back to the placement point. Placement incomplete, Cade contained, the guard confirmed. Mara released pressure only after he could no longer reach the bridge, and the ticking continued over their breathing. Pellas returned over a damaged local channel. Exterior held long enough, and Team C breaking. Status, every team. Team A remains contained at Node A, the lead guard reported. The Node C guard captain came over Pella's channel. Team C survivors are contained outside Old Relay. 2 guards are injured, both conscious. A Node B defender joined through intermittent static. Team B is withdrawing east with most operators moving together. Keep Node B and stop only what you can without losing the interface. We cannot hold the entire group. Then do not lose the node by chasing it. A later report confirmed that a small MV fragment had escaped through the industrial edge without a message or promise. Outsider's arm response arrived after Cade was secured and the placement had failed. They took custody of prisoners, stabilized casualties, and contained the aftermath. The grid survived in reduced islanded operation. Node A and Node B remained live under local control, while Node C's district stayed dark and continued spending Tova's cooling margin. After the reports, a practical pause held until Pella entered Old Relay with the tremor still visible. Can you feel your fingers, or close them? Some feeling, no grip. Do not decide what that means here. Later, under clinical light, Mara tried again. 2 fingers moved late while the others stopped before forming a useful grip. The clinician said, some impairment is likely to last, although I cannot give you the final extent tonight. What can I do tonight? Protect the hand and stop testing it every 30 seconds. That was not the question. The clinician looked toward the crowded hall. Then asked the people who still have work. Community Power Hall held uneven fan cycles, low conversation, warm water, and paper station markers. Tova met Mara at the intake tables. Cooling margin is 21 minutes at the protected load, the alarm. Tova said. What do you need? Track distribution by last check, move the warm water first, and do not promise the fans. 6 active stations, 2 waiting, Mara asked. And the north table loses people whenever its fan stalls, Tova said. Tova handed her a paper list without praise, and Mara began marking containers with her right hand. The manual defender, who had doubted her voice at Node A, stood near the doorway, and Mara pointed toward the weakest fan. Move 2 tables closer and keep the north aisle open. 2 tables closer, north aisle open. He moved immediately and brought 3 guards with him. Pella arrived carrying the local status sheet. Node C remains dark, and the separation is holding. Tova has 21 minutes. 20 now. Mara took 1 peppermint from the paper roll in her pocket and ate it. Pella watched her. You called the compensator a great hawk again. It survived, but the species is still great auk. Correct. Tova called from the next station. Container count? 14 moving, 3 warm and 11 usable. The weakest fan caught, slowed, and completed 1 uneven cycle. A second fan started farther down the hall and stirred the paper markers without restoring the lights. Mara passed the next warm container to the waiting guard and held the station marker flat until the new air stopped lifting its edge.